back in early March, if you remember, the Jets flew out to see Aaron Rodgers, and they laid out a plan that could work for them financially if he was willing to take a pay cut. And, he wanted to get out of Green Bay as quickly as possible, and he wanted to come play for the Jets because when they saw the Jets in preseason or during regular season, he saw a young and growing team, and he saw a lot of really good players. And he wanted to be a part of it, much like Tom Brady wanted to be part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He took a pay cut to go down there. When he got down there, they started to work with Bruce Arians and said, let's get this guy in here, get Gronk in here, get Antonio Brown in here, get Leonard Fournette in here, and let's build around me, and let's see if we can go get a Super Bowl. And they did.
Yep.
They won the Super Bowl in their own building, which was really interesting. And I think, I don't want to speak for Aaron Rodgers. Nobody should speak for any one of these players, especially when you're talking about their money, but I think he saw a really good young football team, and he saw up close and personal how good that defense was. And he said, look, man, I want to come and play for the Jets. I want to come and play in New York. I'm all in. And when you look at this contract and the way that it's written, he took a lot less money, about $35 to $40 million less. But when you do look at the dead cap number that is attached to it, it shows you that he might be here for 3 years.
Yeah, and that is great news for Jets fans, you would imagine, as long as we expect or what we expect comes to life with him. And I think he's going to play great. You never know with injuries and hits and stuff like that, but he seems to be rejuvenated. No, he really is. He's in great. I'm not saying that he obviously won 2 MVPs in a row before last year, and then he ended up getting hurt. But sometimes at this point in your career, you could speak to this more than me, but something can rejuvenate you, and he seems to have that right now. And it is great to watch some of the clips that you see. You're right, he's in great shape. He seems very, very happy. And the Green Bay Packers are probably looking at this and saying, wow, he left $35 million on the table. Mm-hmm. Now, they didn't want him. They didn't. They were done. They were ready to move on. The relationship had been broken. But I think keeping him would have been a different story if he had gone to the Packers and said, I'll take $35 million less to stay here.
Yeah, there's a lot, whatever went on between he and Gutekunst. I think that was, really the guy that he was looking at that he didn't get along with.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I think he liked Matt LaFleur, who is, by the way, Rob Saleh's best friend. So I'm just wondering. I wish I
thought that was Joe Beningo was Rob Saleh's best friend.
Yeah, maybe he's got a lot of best friends.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when Matt LaFleur and Rob Saleh were talking about Aaron Rodgers to hear what Matt LaFleur was saying. Good luck with dealing with this one.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. But as long as he's throwing touchdown passes and playing the way that he played under Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator in Green Bay, this is why Denver hired Nathaniel Hackett. They wanted... And it just happened a year too late.
Yep.
And I think that, Aaron Rodgers was having second thoughts last year. And that's one of the reasons why he stayed, plus the money that Green Bay ended up giving him. And then after another year in Green Bay, and maybe just wanted a fresh start, wanted to see what it was like somewhere else. And when Joe Douglas and the guys flew out to go see him and they laid out the financial plan, he was willing to do what they asked him to do in order to be able to sign guys like McCole Hardman and Alan Lazard and to bring guys in and to be able to pay Quinnen Williams. And, it worked out great, and he took less money. And he wants to win a Super Bowl. He wants to be great. Look, if he gets this team to the Super Bowl somehow, going through this gauntlet of quarterbacks in the AFC and going through the AFC East, God bless him. This will stamp his career forever. He got the Jets to the Super Bowl.
Right, of course.
And somehow they win.
Well, yeah, I think, getting them there is one thing, winning is another. And it's not going to be easy in this conference, as we talked about many times, but you really don't know how it's going to work out, what's going to happen, who has injuries, who has a down year. There were some teams last year that nobody expected to be terrible. There was teams last year nobody expected to be good. So, yes, on paper, it's going to be very, very difficult to come out of the AFC. But, the Jets are one of those reasons why the AFC is tough as well. This was a team that was headed to the playoffs and then, of course, fell apart. had miserable quarterback play. Then when Mike White came in and gave you a little bit of life, then he ended up getting hurt, and then he couldn't play at the same level. And this was a team that was really good on both sides of the ball, but did not have enough quarterback play. And now you've got a Hall of Famer who is extra motivated, who is coming into a young team and setting a standard that only a guy like that can.
So now the next thing is, okay, do you want Dalvin Cook? Now, I've been telling you that Minnesota had a deal on the table. I don't know if they've taken the deal off the table or not for $7 million for Dalvin. Yeah. And I think he just said, enough with Minnesota. You don't want me. You don't want to pay me for everything that I've done for you guys. And, I'm leaving and I don't want to play with you guys. Mm-hmm. So now comes, if Aaron Rodgers says to Joe Douglas, look, man, I really want Dalvin Cook. Joe Douglas is going to do everything he can to get Dalvin Cook. But then again, you hear all sorts of different reports. I would just say that, I felt like this a couple of weeks ago that he was going to try to get the Jets involved with a bidding war between them and the Dolphins. And now, of course, there's a potential that the Patriots are involved. So if Aaron Rodgers wants Dalvin Cook, I think he can get him. But the question is really, what are you talking about paying him? Now, he may say to Dalvin Cook, look, I took less money, but it's $35 million instead of $50 million.
Yeah. Now, what about this latest report, though? Because it was a lawsuit back in November of 2021 that his ex-girlfriend filed about domestic abuse. She said that he abused her, caused a concussion, then held her hostage at his residence in a Minneapolis suburb. Now, that happened back in 2021. The lawsuit was very quiet after that. Now, a Minneapolis Star-Tribune article came out about a week ago that you had mentioned when we were talking about Dalvin Cook, where he had made two settlement offers to her, one of $800,000 and another of $1 million, requesting that her testimony be barred. So,
it's a tough one.
It is a tough one because
he's not suspended by the NFL,
right? And it's one of these things. Which is really
amazing to me, too, by the way.
Yeah, and we've seen a million of these things where, one person's saying something, the other person's saying another. But, if Dalvin Cook is willing to pay her $1 million to not talk about what happened, that doesn't seem to me that he is confident in his side of the story.
No, somebody should ask him a question. It seems like he's going on a lot of these talk shows and stuff. So we should ask him.
Right.
Did you pay your girlfriend $1 million for punching her in the face,
or at least offer to?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's offered his ex-girlfriend $1 million.
So, but let me ask you a question. But that lawsuit is it still ongoing? That's the thing that I don't understand. Is the lawsuit still ongoing? Like Deshaun Watson still has two lawsuits ongoing.
Yeah.
He had to give a deposition I believe in April of this year. I thought that whole thing was going to come to a head, but it still hasn't gotten to trial yet.
Yeah, and I don't know if this lawsuit is still ongoing. It seems to me in this article reading about the settlement that there is no indication that it has been settled. So she also alleged that Cook overpowered her, assaulted her again, later threatening and beating her with a broomstick. And she has a text message from Cook saying, I know what I did can't be rewound. If you want to go to the police, I'll respect that. I'll take my punishment for what I did. That was included in the filing of the lawsuit. Then, after all of that, he countersued, claiming defamation and fraud.
All right.
So there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Right?
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
I don't, he has not been obviously suspended in any way, shape, or form.
And there's no police report filed by either one of them.
Right. So
I don't know what you want to do with that. If you're an NFL GM, seems like lots of them don't seem to care about it. So I don't know. It's one of these tricky situations we've seen many, many times with players, and especially those who are either under contract or not under contract, and you have to decide, is it worth it? And we've seen just recently the Bills punter who was cut, and his name was out there as far as statutory rape charges,
and he's completely cleared
of everything. Wasn't even near the location where that went down, and is trying to restart his career and restart his life. So
the Jets actually had him in.
Right. So you've seen both sides of it. You see bad guys get caught for doing bad things, and you see good guys getting accused of bad things, and then they have to fight their way through it when they were innocent the whole time. So I'm not sure what the facts are with Dalvin Cook, but I mean, it is a part of his story now. If you're a team that's going to bring him in, if there's any more of this stuff that's going to come out.
I don't listen, all that stuff with Deshaun Watson and Cleveland giving him all that guaranteed money.
Yeah, he was suspended for a year.
Does anybody really care anymore?
No, but he was suspended for a year.
Well, 11 games or whatever it was, wasn't it? Or 10 games or something like 6 games, whatever the hell it was.
And he didn't play the year before. I mean, the guy
got paid.
Right, but he didn't play football
and he got
for
fined $5 million.
2 years.
But he got paid.
Yeah, no, I know. But, I mean, Dalvin Cook hasn't had any sort of suspension or any sort of anything. So
well, I know. But it's still part of the story. But I'm going to go back to telling you what I was told, 2 to 3 weeks ago was the fact that, Dalvin Cook's out there, that there was an offer on the table from the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if that offer still exists. That I don't know. And that, I'm sure that Dalvin Cook's agent would love to get a little bidding war going.
Sure.
Between the Dolphins, the Jets, and now it seems like the Patriots have interest.
Yeah. And if I were Dalvin Cook and his agent, of course, I would try to wait as long as possible because if Dalvin's in shape and working out, it really doesn't matter because then there could be a team that suffers an injury in the preseason, and then all of a sudden he becomes a hotter commodity, and maybe a team meets his number because of that, because they are desperate. So,
well, it's kind of interesting because, the Patriots have Ramondre Stevenson up there.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's a damn good back, man, but he's not Dalvin Cook type back.
Well, I mean, the Jets have good backs, too. I mean, we'll see what Breece Hall is when he comes back. I mean, Michael Carter's been a nice back for him, but, Breece Hall could be Dalvin Cook. What we saw last year, he was on track to be the offensive rookie of the year until he ended up getting hurt, and then it went to Garrett Wilson.
That is a serious knee injury, and I know he feels like he wants to come back, and, they're going to be really, really careful with that. I mean, I would be shocked to see him like the first month of the season. I really would.
Yeah, so, I mean, bringing in Dalvin Cook, I told you, I think he's got a lot left, and I think that the Vikings could have handled it differently where they didn't try to cut him and then try to bring him back after that, maybe a restructuring. I was bummed out looking back on the quarterback documentary, some of these big plays that he had as they were following around Kirk Cousins. I'm just being reminded of the breakaway speed and the big game-changing plays and how important he was to the offense.
He's like Le'Veon Bell to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, it's close. I think Le'Veon, when he was at his prime there, was even more productive.
But, I mean, he played the same type of role.
He did, and I think he's got a lot left. I do. As a football player, I think that whoever gets him is going to get a really, really productive football player for at least 2 years. At least.
I wonder. The only thing I wonder about, and I don't have an answer on this, is he did have an injured shoulder.
Mm-hmm. He always gets banged up. He's good for missing 2 or 3 games a year, but he's still, his value is tremendous. And
keep him healthy the last 8 games of the season.
Right.
And then you're fine.
Right. And just make sure that he's healthy in a postseason situation.
But, like I was saying, earlier, that once people saw what Aaron Rodgers was going to get paid and how he was going to redo his contract, they would love him even more. And that's exactly what happened here. And it's not surprising. Eventually they had to redo the contract. I don't know why it took so long, but they had to redo that contract, and he signed it. And, he basically took a pretty big pay cut. And, what's interesting is with all these other guys now getting their contracts, Justin Herbert and, Joe Burrow is right around the corner, and it's going to be a massive contract, and it should be a massive contract. He's been in 7 playoff games in the last 2 years, 2 AFC championship games, a Super Bowl. He's played significant roles in all of those games, beat the Tennessee Titans in his first playoff game in which he got sacked like 9 times, if you remember.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill kept throwing it to the Cincinnati Bengals defense, but that helped. But, the fact of the matter is it's going to be massive. And they still have to pay T. Higgins. They haven't paid him yet.
Yeah.
And T. Higgins, look, he could be a number 1 wide receiver for any other team in the league, maybe with the exceptions of guys, wherever Justin Jefferson is and Devontae Adams is and Garrett Wilson now. But there are teams out there that would love to have T. Higgins as their number 1 receiver and pay him $20 million a year.
Yeah, and as far as Aaron Rodgers' pay cut's concerned, we've seen guys take less money in the past, but never can I remember $35 million being left on the table from anybody. I mean, we've seen he took $5 million less maybe $10 million less over the course of 2 years to help a team out, whatever. $35 million.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be.
Brady was always underpaid, when he came to what was going on up in New England and when he went down to Tampa. Now, I think Tampa did some other things with him. I'm not really sure. I don't know if it had anything to do with the soccer teams. I don't know. He's got like an entire team of financial people that run TB12.
Oh, yeah.
You know that, right?
Of course, yeah.
And all they do is try to figure out ways for him to make more money, away from whatever he's making publicly or when he was playing for the teams that he was playing for.
Yeah.
And he makes a ton of it. And,
I know. And Giselle heavily involved in real estate, too. I mean,
FTX.
Right, as well.
That Sam Bankman-Fried Bitcoin crap. And then Aaron Rodgers has made over $300 million already to this point in his career. Now, that is his salary from the Green Bay Packers. It has nothing to do with his off-the-field endorsements,
State Farm,
any investments, anything that he's doing. Believe me, he's making a lot of money, and he's made a lot of money, and he's really comfortable. Now what he wants to do, and I think this is great, he wants to take the New York Jets to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's what he's trying to do. And
he wants to win it, too.
Right, of course, because think of the legacy. Think of what would happen and how people would view him. I know the people in Green Bay probably are not very happy, but this is a guy who's made a decision that he wants to try to do what Tom Brady did. That's what I think. Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.